Have you ever seen a moment so powerful that it brought Simon Cowell to tears? Tonight, you're about to witness the incredible story of a man who spent years sweeping streets just to survive, only to step onto the biggest talent stage in the world and leave an entire audience speechless. As Simon Cowell sat frozen in disbelief and thousands of people rose to their feet, one thing became clear. This was not just another audition. This was a moment nobody would ever forget, and the most unbelievable part. Just a few months earlier, the man standing under those bright stage lights was cleaning sidewalks before sunrise, wondering how he would provide for his family the next day. His name was Miguel Santos, a humble street sweeper from the Philippines. Every morning, while most people were still asleep, Miguel was already awake, long before the first buses filled the streets and before shop owners opened their doors. He was pushing his broom along crowded roads, quietly doing a job that few people noticed and even fewer appreciated. For nearly 15 years, that had been his life. Day after day, month after month, year after year, Miguel worked tirelessly to keep the streets clean while carrying the weight of responsibilities on his shoulders. Life had never been easy. The small amount of money he earned barely covered the essentials. There were days when unexpected expenses forced difficult decisions. If one of his children became sick, the family budget would immediately fall apart. Sometimes Miguel skipped meals so his children could eat. Sometimes he walked long distances because he couldn't afford transportation. Sometimes he lay awake at night wondering if things would ever get better. Yet despite all those struggles, there was one thing nobody could take away from him: his love for music. Ever since he was a young boy, Miguel had loved to sing. Growing up in a small community, he often performed at local gatherings, church events, and family celebrations. People would tell him he had a beautiful voice, but as he grew older, reality demanded something different. Dreams had to be set aside. Bills had to be paid. Responsibilities came first. So, Miguel traded stages for sidewalks, but he never stopped singing. Whenever he worked alone, he would quietly sing to himself. Music became his escape, a way to forget the hardships of life, even if only for a few minutes. Sometimes early in the morning, his voice echoed through empty streets while the city was still waking up. The sound carried through the air unnoticed by most people. At least that's what Miguel believed. Then one ordinary morning changed everything. The sun had barely risen when Miguel started his shift near a busy market district. The streets were unusually quiet, and as he worked, he began singing one of his favorite songs. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't performing. He was simply doing what he had always done, singing while he worked. As fate would have it, a tourist walking through the area happened to hear him. The visitor stopped immediately. Something about Miguel's voice felt different. It was powerful, emotional, authentic. The tourist quietly took out a phone and started recording. Miguel never noticed. He continued sweeping the street and singing exactly as he always had. A few minutes later, the tourist uploaded the video online. Then, something extraordinary happened. The clip began spreading across social media. People shared it with friends. Friends shared it with family. Soon, thousands of people were watching. Then hundreds of thousands. Then millions of comments poured in from around the world. How is this man not famous? That voice gave me chills. This is the kind of talent the world needs to hear. I can't stop listening. Miguel had no idea any of this was happening. He continued living his normal life, going to work, helping his family, and following the same routine. Then one evening, his son ran into the house holding a phone. "Dad, you're viral!" Miguel laughed. At first, he thought it was a joke. But when his son showed him the video and the millions of views, he couldn't believe his eyes. For the first time in his life, strangers from all over the world were listening to his voice. The attention kept growing. News outlets started covering his story. Radio stations talked about him. Television programs invited him for interviews. People everywhere wanted to know more about the street sweeper with the incredible voice. Then came a message that seemed completely impossible. America's Got Talent wanted him to audition. Miguel read the invitation several times. Surely there had been a mistake. Why would one of the biggest talent shows in the world be interested in someone like him? For days, he questioned whether he should accept. The thought of standing in front of millions of viewers terrified him. What if he failed? What if people laughed? What if he disappointed everyone who believed in him? But his family saw things differently. His wife reminded him how long he had carried this dream. His children encouraged him to take the chance. His friends insisted he would regret it forever if he said no. Eventually, Miguel made his decision. He would go, not for fame, not for money, but for the opportunity to prove that dreams have no expiration date. The journey itself felt unreal. It was Miguel's first time traveling so far from home, his first time boarding an international flight, his first time seeing America. Everything felt bigger than he imagined. The buildings, the roads, the crowds. When he finally arrived at the AGT theater, his nerves immediately returned. Backstage was filled with talented performers from around the world. Singers practiced vocal exercises. Dancers stretched before their routines. Magicians rehearsed tricks. Everyone seemed confident. Everyone seemed prepared. Miguel, however, felt completely out of place. He stood quietly in a corner, holding a small Philippine flag. Part of him wondered if he belonged there at all. But then he remembered why he came. He remembered his family, his community, and his country. And suddenly he found the courage to continue. Finally, a producer approached him. "Miguel, you're up next." His heart started racing. This was it, the moment he had never imagined would happen. As he walked toward the stage entrance, he could hear the audience cheering for the previous performer. Bright lights shined through the curtains. The energy inside the theater was overwhelming. Miguel took a deep breath and then he stepped onto the stage. The audience applauded politely. The judges smiled. Simon Cowell watched carefully. Miguel stood in the center of the stage, trying to control his nerves. Simon leaned forward. "Tell us about yourself." Miguel explained that he worked as a street sweeper in the Philippines. Immediately, the audience became interested. He shared pieces of his journey, the struggles, the sacrifices, the years of hard work, and the dream he never abandoned. The more he spoke, the quieter the theater became. People listened closely. Many were already emotionally invested in his story. Then Simon asked the question everyone wanted answered. "What are you going to sing today?" Miguel smiled softly. "I want to sing for my country," the audience applauded. The judges nodded. And then the music began. The theater suddenly fell silent. Miguel closed his eyes. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the entire world disappeared. There were no cameras, no judges, no audience, only the music. Then he started singing. The first note immediately captured the room. Conversation stopped. Movement stopped. Even the judges appeared surprised. There was something special in his voice, something genuine, something impossible to fake. Every lyric carried emotion. Every note carried purpose. Miguel wasn't simply performing. He was sharing his heart. As the song continued, audience members became visibly emotional. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others placed their hands over their hearts. The atmosphere inside the theater transformed completely. People who had never met Miguel suddenly felt connected to him. They could hear his struggles. They could hear his hopes. They could hear the years of perseverance behind every word. The cameras moved toward the judges. Heidi Klum looked emotional. Sofia Vergara smiled in amazement. Howie Mandel sat completely focused. And then there was Simon Cowell, the famously tough judge who had spent decades evaluating performers. His expression had changed. The skepticism was gone. In its place was something much deeper. Emotion. As Miguel approached the final section of the song, the audience was hanging on every note. Nobody wanted the performance to end. The final chorus filled the theater. The emotion reached its peak, and then came the last note. For 1 second, complete silence filled the room. Then, the entire theater exploded. Thousands of people jumped to their feet. The standing ovation was immediate. Cheers echoed throughout the building. The applause seemed endless. Miguel stood frozen, overwhelmed, speechless. He had dreamed about moments like this his entire life, yet nothing could have prepared him for the reality. Then the cameras focused on Simon Cowell. The audience noticed immediately. Simon was wiping tears from his eyes. A man known around the world for his tough criticism was visibly emotional. The theater erupted again. When the applause finally settled, Simon took a deep breath before speaking. "I've been doing this for a very long time," he said. "And every now and then someone walks onto this stage and reminds us why we love music." The audience applauded. Simon continued, "That wasn't just a performance. That was something real. You made every person in this room feel something." Miguel's eyes filled with tears. Years of struggle, years of sacrifice, years of being overlooked, all of it had led to this moment, but there was still one final surprise. Suddenly, the giant screen behind him lit up. Miguel turned around. His family appeared on the screen, his wife, his children, friends from his hometown, neighbors, and co-workers. An entire community gathered together to support him. The moment Miguel saw them, he broke down completely. Tears streamed down his face. The audience cried with him. The judges smiled. And for one unforgettable moment, thousands of miles disappeared between him and the people he loved most. What started as an audition had become something much bigger. It became a celebration of hope, a celebration of perseverance, a celebration of dreams that refused to die. From sweeping streets before sunrise to standing on one of the world's biggest stages, Miguel's journey proved something powerful. No dream is too small, no beginning is too humble, and no obstacle is too great when you refuse to give up. Because sometimes, the person nobody notices today becomes the person the entire world is talking about tomorrow. And sometimes all it takes is one opportunity to change everything. If you enjoyed this inspiring story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on